Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 48. Fast approaching that number 50, which is insane to think we started this last January. We've always had 50 guests on. It's been a journey for sure. Today we have Nicola. You may know her as the livestock farm her. Nicola, if you'd like to say hello.
Hello.
Before we get on into another excellent episode of the R2Kast, I would just like to thank the sponsor for the show today, The Scottish Farmer, a weekly magazine highlighting everything you need to know regarding the Scottish agricultural industry, whether it's breaking news, events happening in the sector, market reports, classified ads, or just wholesome stories happening in the industry. The Scottish Farmer's got it for you.
So famous on the Instagrams is Nicola, famous on the TV as well, which we'll come to at some point. Could you tell us a bit about your background though, Nicola? Were you born into farming? Was farming always for you?
Yep. So I was very fortunate. I've been born on our family farm. So my grandfather bought it back in the 1950s. And then my dad and my uncle took over. And my uncle then left the partnership. So it's just my dad now. And I'm coming through and working on the farm sort of full time now. To start with, like when I was younger, we've always been involved in the farm. Like we've always had our own pet lambs and always got kind of thrown in at the deep end of lambing and got stuck in. But it was when I think it was when I was 10, I got to keep my own pigs. So that kind of really, I think, encouraged the passion. Like it kind of grew from there. And then just kind of took off, and that's kind of when I realised that I did want to come back and farm full time.
And so you had the pigs at 10. I assume you hadn't made your life decisions at 10 with your pigs. Was it? Did you go off to college or anything like that, or was it just staying at home?
Yeah. So I finished school and then I went to college and did 2 years at Craibston. I got my HND in agriculture, and then I decided to go to New Zealand for 3 months. Went to New Zealand, and then after that I came home, and I've never left since.
Brilliant. How long ago was that?
I was in New Zealand in 2018.
Right. No, good. I'm just going to apologise to everyone listening. I've got a horrible throat, and I'm trying not to cough when Nicola's talking. So if I do cough when I'm talking, I apologise. What I will say is, off to New Zealand, you hear a lot of folk talking New Zealand, and it's sort of like I don't know if Mecca is the word, but the sort of the place that everyone wants to try. Did it live up to the hype?
Yeah, definitely. At the time I was quite nervous. I went out myself, and it's the first time I'd ever done anything like that. So I was really, really nervous. And it was I went over November to January. So it was first time being away over Christmas and New Year and everything. So that was a big step. And I did kind of struggle with that at the time. But looking back, and then once I kind of, got into the way of it and was busy working and did some traveling and that, it was amazing. And I would encourage anybody, if you get a chance, do it.
That's just what everyone says. Just what everyone says.
Yeah.
Was that with sheep, with dairy cattle?
It was actually mostly dairy cattle, so it was completely different to what I'm used to here, which was, I think, a great experience, to be honest. And I did learn a lot. So no, it was really, really good. I just didn't like having to wear sun cream all the time. It was so hot.
We're not used to the sun cream stuff here.
Putting sun cream on and having a barbecue on Christmas Day was different.
Quite surreal that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Christmas Day is normally 6 layers until you get into the flat. Absolutely. How many cattle was on the dairy farm?
Oh, the one I was the farm that I kind of stayed on, it was the fattening farm. So they had about 600 dairy bulls that they fattened, but then their neighbours helped out with the milking. I think there was I want to say about 300 or 400. It wasn't huge, but that was sort of their kind of average size. So yeah, no, it was really good. really enjoyed it.
What breed were the bulls that were fattened, and what age did they go away at, roughly?
Oh, they were all Frisian bulls, and some of them were like 2.5, 3 before they went. So yeah, there were fair lumps of things, but they're just completely grass fed. They weren't fed anything like any other feed or that.
And the milking side, was it one of the rotary parlours?
No, it was what's the word? Herringbone?
Headbone. Yeah.
Like swing, yeah, either side. So yeah, that was really good. Just totally different. It's just not what I'm used to at all.
I think that's one of the best things about going somewhere. I mean, I've never left the UK to work, but went to Essex 2 summers, and coming from a beef and sheep farm in the Isle of Arran, moving down to a 6,500 acre animal place was different.
Yeah.
I vividly remember the first day I went round and looked into the side tractor shed that I thought was the main tractor shed, but the side tractor shed, and there was a 6930 John Deere, and I don't know if you're into tractors or what, but I remember thinking, oh my god, it's huge. And then I opened the next door, and there's this like 690 horsepower quad track and 480 power, and I'm like, oh
wow.
my god. It was quite surreal going home from that later on that year and seeing these tractors that I used to think were big and thinking that's just a quad. It's but so good seeing that different experience like you're seeing. And a lot of people that listen to this, and the reason they listen to it is sort of seeing the different people that are in the industry and sort of different jobs that are out there. And I couldn't stress enough how much it's important to, if you're from X farm, to try out Y farm, to try something different. And
definitely.
And do you see yourself going into dairy ever again?
No. My other half, he's from Northern Ireland, and the part of Northern Ireland he's from is just all dairy country. So whenever we go back there, we do go to dairies and whatnot. But no, no. I couldn't see myself doing it here. No.
You've had your fix.
Yeah. I'll stick to the suckler cows and the sheep.
Yeah, and that brings me on to my next question. Could you tell us a bit about the home farm?
Yep. So we're farming about just over 1,400 acres, and we're sitting just about 850 breeding ewes. There's about most of them are Scottish mules, all put to Texel tups, and then we also have a very small flock of pedigree non-registered Texels to try and breed some of our own replacement tups. The cattle, we have about 240 head of suckler cows, calving half spring, half autumn, and all the calves are sold at our local mart at a year old as stores. I should say the sheep, we sell all the lambs off grass straight to the abattoirs.
What's your local market?
Stainston.
Yeah. I'm just trying to gauge roughly where you are. Where is it you are? You said just off camera, but so.
So we're sort of we're closer to Elgin than we are Aberdeen, but we're sort of halfway between Huntly and Dufton, slightly closer to Huntly, in the northeast.
The sucklers, what breed are you running there?
We've got Simmental and Limousin Cross, all bought as bulling heifers out of the Southern Ireland.
Right, okay. Yeah. Has that always been what you've done?
Yeah, so my grandfather started that, and Dad's carried it on just purely because quality and price. We get them all home in one batch. We've got a chap over there that sources them all for us, gets them all tested, and then gets them all sent home. So we'd take 2 lots home, spring and autumn, and about 20 each time.
Yeah. And is the reason for doing spring and autumn half and half just to spread the load?
Spread the workload, and also you just get income twice a year.
Yeah, easier that way. The Scotch mules, are you breeding them yourself from your own blackies and blues, or buying them as well?
No, we buy all them in as replacement gimmers. The past couple of years, I've been buying mule hogs, just because we've got some ground we can winter them over. But I just gimmer them. I don't tuck them as hogs. But yeah, bought out of Fainston and Huntly.
Right, okay. So if you got Fainston and Huntly, is that the two markets near you? Is there anything else nearby? Or? Yeah.
No, they'd be the two main ones.
Fainston's quite a notable one, though. I mean, everyone knows about Fainston. Whether that's from the Mart, I don't think it is, though. I'm pretty sure I've always known about Fainston.
Aye.
Never been, as someone who's never been north of Dundee.
No way.
It's quite embarrassing, that actually. Yeah, so yeah, but I've never
need to
been.
come up for a visit.
Oh, excellent! This is the best thing with this podcast. I get invited to visits everywhere. It's great fun. Yes, you shouldn't have offered this because I will take you up on that.
Absolutely.
Brilliant! Look at that. When you mentioned Dundee, are you considering going to Scotch Sheep?
Hoping to. Yep. It's going to be a good day out.
Yeah, it's needed. It's been a while since all these things.
Definitely.
Now, when you were listening to this, Scotch Sheep was probably about 2 months ago. But hopefully it was a good day on June 1st. Hopefully we got the weather that we wanted and it wasn't like... Did you happen to go to, Quixwood in Duns? It was, I think, 6 years ago.
Oh, I don't think so, no.
I mean, I have not seen rain like it ever. It was so unfortunate. And they had all these tours set up and everything ready to go. And it just, it was, if you didn't have your snorkeler, you couldn't go, you know.
God.
It was unfortunate. You said 1,400 acres. Is that all owned? You said it was bought in the 50s. Is that all owned? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all owned, yeah.
That must make
We do a small amount of crop as well, but it's just 100 acres, all spring barley, some mostly malting, and then keep some for ourselves.
Did you say mostly malting? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, mostly malting, yeah.
Is that sold nearby?
Yep, it's all sold to Port Gordon, so it all goes there. But it goes there, and then it's used in Abelard whiskey.
Okay, yeah, well-known one. Well-known. As someone who doesn't drink whiskey, I've always wanted to drink whiskey. I think it looks really cool when people have a whiskey collection, but I have it and it just burns my body. Way too painful. I can't actually remember if you said this, but you said all your lambs are reared off grass straight to the slot to the abattoir. What abattoir is that?
We work Woodheads at Turriff.
Right.
So it's just about 40 minutes from us.
Are they taking quite a lot from nearby, are they?
Yeah, seem to be. We put our lambs through, they're under what's called May Select. So that's kind of through Dumbia run that.
Right.
But because the slaughterhouse at Elgin was shut down, quite a few years ago now, Turriff then took on that contract from Dumbia. So we get an allocated day for our lambs to go
right
through that May Select.
Is that a butcher's as well, or is it just an abattoir?
It's just an abattoir. No, it's maybe a butcher's as well, actually.
Right. Yeah.
I think so. I'm not sure actually.
No, it's one of the worrying ones with the industry, and we're from an island, as I mentioned, and I mean I'm not on an island at the minute, but from an island, and one of the big issues is getting things killed, and abattoirs are just disappearing like that. So it's good. I mean that's what 850 ewes you said, so they'll be getting quite a lot of lambs from you at least to keep them going, even just from yourself. So that's that's good in itself. You mentioned your partner. Do you both work on the farm?
No, Davey's self-employed. He's a self-employed shepherd. He does sheep scanning and sheep shearing, and he's got his own flock of sheep as well. Right.
And from following you, it seems like you do quite a bit of rousing. Do you do a bit of shearing as well?
I do the odd few. I definitely couldn't hack it like all day, every day. But yeah, I'd like to get a bit more like confident to be able just to like go up and do a few, or just there's a yow missed or your neighbour needs a few clipped or whatever, it'd be fine handy. It's a good skill to have. So yeah, this year I'm aiming to try and do a few more.
And how much is a few more? It always interests me what everyone's different few more is.
Well, last year I think I did 26 myself.
Right.
So maybe aim for like 30, 40 this year, maybe.
Brilliant. Good aspiration.
See how fit I'm feeling.
Exactly, that's it. And just on while we've mentioned Davey, is he contract shearing quite a lot around you, or is he?
Yeah. So it's him and another local boy. They have their own sort of run, and it's all pretty much within Aberdeenshire. So yeah, I think it was like 30 or 40,000 sheep they shore last year. So
It just
keeps them busy.
People say that sort of number.
I know.
Different shearers on like Cammy, who I know you've met through the landward side, and and Carl Devaney and other ones, and they're just like, like 15,000. I was like, I've done 17 life.
I know.
Yeah, it's quite. You say it's a skill, but it's also the most insane endurance.
Absolutely.
Mental, absolutely mental. It's up near you mainly suckler herds and sheep. Is there much arable around as well, or am I sort of getting the geography wrong?
No, sort of over towards the Turriff direction would be more arable kind of ground. Up here, we're known as like an upland farm. So it is majority suckler, breeding yows kind of ground. We're sort of, you do get a few more farms up beyond us that are growing barley, but not many. You're kind of getting at your limit for your growing season. But yeah, we don't grow much anyway. So
yeah, this cough is really annoying me. I keep taking away from you speaking. So for those of you that have heard of Nicola, you'll know her as livestock farm her, which is, I keep saying wrong when I try and say it correctly. Just livestock farmer with an H. It's really not that difficult. That's like when you go to Starbucks and you're like, it's Mark with a C and they write Cark, and they're going to look up livestock farmer now, aren't they? There's a lot of different Instagrams out there and Facebooks and stuff like that, all about farming. And first off, I think that's great. I think the more we're sort of pushing that narrative, the better. But if you don't follow Nicola, I'd strongly advise you to, because it's not just photos of sheep and photos of calves and stuff like that. It's actual information about why you're doing stuff, why you're using a certain product, for instance, that sort of thing. Why did you go down that route, Nicola, as opposed to just putting some photos out there?
I think I've always had an interest in, trying to share why we do things as an industry. And like, even from a young age, my mum and dad used to go to schools and like take educational trailer, and they would take it into schools and show pupils and explain processes of, your different cereals, or you've got a cow here and where your milk comes from, where your meat comes from, or whatever it might be. And I've always had that sort of drive as well to try and educate and inform people. And I think, excuse me, I think growing up as well and like being more involved in farming, I see like a bigger sort of gap forming, and misinformation getting spread around and stuff like that. So I think I kind of wanted to just go down the route of showing why we do things and trying to explain sort of processes of it happening. And like I've always said, since I started the account, and like people who know me as well know that I always keep it real. Like, you get the good and the bad. And I think that's really important as well. And I think that's what a lot of people like to engage with, because it is real. It's not all just happy, sunny pictures of little wee lambs or calves or whatever, and that's why I try and explain the whole process as well, not just be like A to B or whatever.
Yeah, and that sort of real thing is good. And I think it shows. I spoke with someone else in the podcast, a few people in the podcast with this recently. Like, I've had two posts that have blown up in the blown up in the time that I've had social media accounts about farming. One of them is the wool price. We know that's not good. One of them is we very rarely have to assist in calving at our farm. It's a very extensive farm. It's not run hard, so we're not assisting often, and we had to assist once. Use the calving jack. Talked about the truth about it. Calf was quite sore for the first few weeks, and that blew up. Real life is a thing we all go through. It works. It resonates with people. I didn't actually mean to plan to go into Instagram and how sort of numbers and stuff like that, but just while you mentioned what you did, was the intention of Instagram just to sort of share? Did you ever think it would get to the size it has? Because you've only had Instagram for a couple of years, haven't you? Really, it's not been around forever.
No, so I started my account in January 2021. I'd sort of toyed with the idea for like 6 months, and then I'd gone, oh, should I, shouldn't I? And then I finally plucked up the courage to do it, and it was purely just, I thought friends, family, maybe some family friends, whatever, maybe a few local farmers or whatever. But no, I really, really did not think it would blow up the way it has. And like, I'm so grateful for it doing that, and getting across to the wider public. And that was probably down to Countryfile, to be honest.
Which leads me on to the next thing. Countryfile. Why have you mentioned that? Could you tell us about Countryfile?
So it must have been last July. I was we were just coming back from a day shearing, and I got a phone call, and now this sounds so bad, but nowadays you get so many fake calls or like rubbish calls, and it was this like random number, and I was like, oh, this is just rubbish, because I'd had a couple already that day, and I was like, this is just rubbish. And it was Davey actually was like, oh, just answer it to see who it is. So I answered it, and with that I spoke to a lady, and she was like, oh, it's so and so from Countryfile, just to let you know, congratulations, you've been picked for our final 3. And I was like, what? Meanwhile, I'm getting so many messages from my sister being like, this person's gonna phone, it's genuine, I'll explain all later, just pick up and speak. So I was speaking away to her, and she was like, you don't sound like you know about this. And I was like, I genuinely have no idea. So it turned out that my sister had nominated me for a competition. Hadn't heard anything like again since she nominated me, like completely forgot about it herself, and then got this phone call to say that I'd been picked for the final 3, and that the producers and Adam Henson wanted to come up and film on the farm. So yeah, it was glad I picked up.
Well, yeah, exactly. I know, that's it. It wasn't someone selling PPI.
No.
which is nice. What was the award?
So it was BBC Food and Farming Countryfile's Young Countryside Champion.
That was a mouthful. You really had to. Wow. So first off, congratulations on that. That's really cool.
Thank you.
What was involved when the team came up?
So they wanted to kind of film like something happening on the farm, and with it being, it was like end of July, August sort of time, we were going through and picking fat lambs. So they were like, that's perfect, we'll film all that, working with the dogs, running through, explaining why we picked the fat lambs, what weight we were taking them at, what did we look for, just all that kind of general stuff. And then basically, yeah, just had a chat, and that was it really. It was just a whole day of just taking lots of different shots for about 5 minutes on TV.
It's funny, isn't it? It's hours and hours for nothing, for a really short period of time.
Small, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite, nothing's the wrong word, that takes away from it, but short. What was Adam like?
Yeah. Oh, he was brilliant. Really, really genuine guy. And just, he was so easy to chat to about farming as well. He was saying like what like his farm was, and really interested in what our farm was and how we do things, why we do things, that sort of thing. So no, really, really genuine guy.
I found much the same. I haven't met him in person, but for anyone listening, we're talking about Adam Henson from Countryfile, who's on, that's right, R2Kast number 25, the Christmas special. But you hear quite a lot of negative things about him, and I thought the complete opposite. I had him at 7:30 night, and he was happy to sit for an hour with me, some random bearded guy that was just asking a load of questions that he's probably been asked a million times before. I couldn't fault the guy. So, no, good to hear that. And there was a big awards ceremony. You went down to England?
Yep. So we got a wee day out in London, which was very different to what we're used to. So yeah, we all went down, the whole family went down, and just sort of made a day of it. Had the award ceremony at night in the BBC headquarters, and unfortunately I didn't win, but I mean, I'm so delighted and grateful to have been A, nominated, and B, to have gotten that far. It's a huge achievement in itself. So yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. It's a win in itself, really. Yeah, just because you didn't win that, Do you know
Absolutely.
the people? Do you know who they are that were involved?
I saw them. They were there at the awards night, but I don't really know them. No.
Yeah.
I hope you've kicked your feet up and got comfy and enjoying another fantastic episode of the R2Kast with another really interesting guest. I would just like to quickly take another second to plug the sponsors of the show today, the Scottish Farmer, and I would strongly advise you to go out and pick one up this week and see even more of the fantastic people that are in our industry.
Just you mentioned your whole family went down. Earlier on, we started talking about sort of the farm at home and that sort of thing. And you mentioned your uncle had sort of left the business. Is it just yourself and your dad and your partner when he helps, or is it just you two?
So me, my dad, and we've got a full-time employee as well. So us three full-time, and then my mum, she's part-time. She does all the boring paperwork side of stuff, all the important stuff. And she helps out on the farm at lambing time. And then I've got a brother and a sister as well, both older. And again, very fortunate, they come home and help during lambing or busy times. But they don't work full-time on the farm.
It's quite funny how many folk do that. Like, they're in the family farm, but not at all. And then at lambing time, everyone's there.
Gets roped back in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I haven't missed a lambing time ever, I don't think, since I started, even though I'm working away as a lecturer and stuff like that. Mum sort of always starts just about this time, May, June time, got your holidays booked for March there, Wallace. Just making sure she can get them in, which is maybe why she pushed me to this career, because she knows I get lots of holidays. That's the only reason this was the case. Good stuff. One thing I meant to actually ask earlier on was, you got pigs at 10. Are pigs still around?
Yeah, so the pigs were always, as Mum says, it was either a make or break if I was going to be a farmer or not. So I got them as weaners, and they were to end up in the freezer, which they did. So I kept, I think it was about like 4 months, 3-4 months. And then they went to the freezer, and maybe a bit harsh, but it was reality. So I named them Sausage and Bacon. So we had 2 to start with, and then that we kept the pork for ourselves. And the first 2, we got 888 sausages, let alone all the other cuts. So yeah, that lasted us, our family of 5, 2 years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
just add that means you were still having over a sausage a day. That's really impressive.
It was crazy. Mum had to go buy a new freezer to fit it all in.
Is that normal amount? I don't know much about pigs at all.
I don't know. We've never had the same again, but I suppose we didn't really know what we were going to get back, how much quantity wise. So I think the butcher maybe put more of it into sausages than he should have. But I mean, they tasted amazing, so we weren't complaining.
Oh, there's nothing better than just pork sausages. Yeah, 100%. No, with you on that one. And so what weight are you killing pigs at? It's different for bacon than it is for sausages, isn't it? It's all...
Yeah, so because they were just for our own consumption, I was taking them to sort of like 120 kilos, and I was getting them about at weaner age, so about 30 kilos. And I've done that every 2 years. I've done that since. So I've increased it slightly in numbers. So I had 4 there the last year, sorry. So yeah, that'll do us now, and then we'll get more next year, hopefully.
So is that still to feed just friends and family and that, or are you selling it as well?
I sell a couple to our local butcher, and he cuts them up, and then I sell a couple of the pigs to him, which he sells at his shop. And then otherwise we still keep 2 for ourselves. We've definitely started eating a lot more pork since we've started, obviously, since we started doing that, but nothing tastes as good. It's just brilliant, if I don't say so myself.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is just your marketing campaign for when you up the sound numbers. I'm not someone that eats a lot of pork, but I always enjoy it when I do. It's one of the, whether that's ham or sausages. I'm always quite. I'm just picturing it. When I was maybe, what would it be? When did it shut? 9 years ago. So I'd be 14. No, wouldn't be 16. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We had a little farm shop, and we had loads of hens to produce the eggs for it.
Okay.
And basically what happened was it's obviously a very touristy island, Darren. The road around our farm got shut, and it just killed the business. So we were basically left with this like insane amount of hens producing a lot of eggs to go nowhere. Yeah, so it was like, Mum, what's for breakfast? Eggs. What's for lunch? Eggs. What's for dinner? Eggs. Oh, Mum, can I have a snack? Yeah, there's an egg. Like it was just eternal eggs. And I was just picturing you with your family with the pork sausages. Brilliant. There's worse things to have to live off, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how someone can be vegetarian and vegan and not have these sausages and stuff like that.
Oh, I know.
That's a different discussion for a different day. Just sort of going back, what I know you did say, but I've forgotten. It's more for me as opposed to those listening. What age did you say what did you have? I can't remember what cattle you had. What age are the cattle going away? What age are they going for store?
They're going at a year old.
A year.
So sort of that 10, 12 months.
Yeah.
Sell them all, yeah.
Grand. And the lambs, are they going at like about 42 kilos? Is that the aim, or is it? Yeah.
Try and get as many away off their mothers as possible, and then just the rest are just fattened off grass.
And what sort of time would that be? What time of year?
We start picking fat at the sort of second week of June. And then every fortnight after that, sometimes every week once we're really into it.
Yeah.
And that's lambing end of March.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And are they, what will they be at, about 210%? Or is that a bit high? Maybe about 200%?
Yeah, we're sitting just about 200%, yeah.
200. Yeah. No, good stuff. My mind's went completely blank. I don't know why. I couldn't remember the word suckler. so everything's just disappeared. My whole head's disappeared, and it was going so well, and now my brain's decided not to work. It's always sort of good to bring different folk on, and as I said earlier, Nicola, the reason I ever started this podcast was back about the same week you would have started Instagram, just telling folk what type of jobs were out there. And it's quite interesting. We've got some folk that have never been in farming, some folk that are in farming and still in farming, like yourself, obviously. But it's cool to see that sort of difference. So first off, it's been really great to sort of sit down and have a chat about that sort of thing. But there's 2 things I always ask people before they're allowed to run off. Now, I think you have said you've listened to the podcast, so maybe you're ready for these. But just before I do that, I think by now you'll have been on Landward, could you tell us about that experience?
Yep. So yeah, again, totally out the blue. And a great day. So we had Doogie up and a producer and cameraman, and they were here just while we were starting to lamb the early mules, and then so managed to film. Yao managed to perform for us, and we managed to film a live birth, so that was really good. And then we were just sort of chatting about how we feed the yows pre-lambing, the ones that lamb outside, and just kind of chatting through that, and yeah, just showing them the sort of setup that we've got, because we lamb outside mainly. There's not as much space inside, and it's purely just space for pens, emergencies kind of thing. But no, really, really good. Another great day, another great experience.
Yeah, another one for the tick box, for the bucket list.
Yep.
And yeah, that's actually one thing I probably should have mentioned. You're talking about very much more outdoor lambing than no indoor lambing, really, just there for assistance. I take it you train sheepdogs as well?
Yeah, so Davey, he's kind of better at training them than me, but I've got my main dog Roxy. He did most of the training, but I did help some of it. And yeah, I'd be lost without her. So lost.
I think can't not outdoor lamb without a dog, but it's just about there. Like, I mean,
yeah,
you know, certainly when we were lambing at home, mum and dad do the two outside bits, and I'm stuck inside because I can't work a dog. So yeah, no, I just wondered if you're involved in the process, or if you were involved in trials or anything like that. But
no, I did. We did. There was like a young farmers kind of trial not far from here, just over the hill actually, and I took Roxy just for a laugh, because she's an Australian Kelpie, so like trials are normally border collies, and yeah, she didn't do very well with me, but when Davey took her, she absolutely aced the course, and she was one of few dogs to actually get the sheep through all three gates.
Right, okay.
So yeah, I think that kind of surprised a few people, because she's she is a Kelpie, but she's so small. I think she's forgotten to grow.
So focused on the sheep, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I mean, I'm not a dog person, and I don't know much about them, so I've just looked them up. Is that what we're sort of?
Yeah. So here, she's actually here beside.
Was she here? Oh, brilliant! Look at that.
She's a worker, but she's very spoiled.
Well, I mean, you've just been on. We've been doing this call for what, I don't know, best part of 40 minutes, and she's been sat next to you the whole time. She's obviously very well behaved, as well as being very well spoiled.
Very. That's the only reason, to be fair, that she's still in the house. Because when we got her as a puppy, we were kind of like moving house at the same time, and I was like, right, when we move, she'll get her own wee kennel. She'll settle outside, and well, here we are 2 years later, and she's still here.
It doesn't seem like she's hampering too much. No, brilliant, and yeah, very pretty dog, and it's one that I am not aware of. But in fairness, if it wasn't a collie or a Labrador, I'd probably be lost. So, I'm not up on dog and cat breeds at all. Yeah, as I said, 2 questions that we end every sort of podcast with. It's always good to sort of go from sort of start to finish in folks' lives and stuff like that. And you're obviously still quite young, so that's not going to be a 40-year process. So we will get into that in a minute, though. First off, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And second, if you had any tips for folk coming into the industry, what would they be?
Oh, 5 years time. Still farming, hopefully.
Good.
In what form? Who knows? Ideally, I'd like to still be farming sucklers, and the sort of plan is to increase sheep as well, and yeah, just try and keep farming the land, try and make a living off of it, and just keep going with the Instagram, obviously. Try and promote and educate, inform people as much as possible through that, and also, you know, potentially through going to schools like what my mum and dad did. Yeah, just try and push farming as much as possible, and show what a great industry we are. Advice for anyone coming into it, I would just say take every opportunity you can get, every opportunity and every experience, no matter what it is. Just go and grab it with both hands.
You know, I think that's the advice that everyone gives, and it's so true. You know, sometimes you think, oh, hearing the same thing's boring. It's not at all, because that is the answer.
Yeah.
I've not done however many, 48 of these, and like 46 folk have said that for no reason. It is, you know, open every door, see what's inside it.
Absolutely.
Have you got any plans to expand over, maybe not 5 years, it's a very short time period, but any plans to expand? Are you quite happy sort of with where the numbers sit at the minute?
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say just now because of the way the prices and the way everything's looking. Ideally, yes, I would like to expand, but who knows in what form. It's such a hard question, because, like, especially in farming, you know, you're always looking a year ahead, where, you know, we've got the bulls back in with next year's spring calving cows, so you're constantly looking ahead. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't say no to expanding.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, the uncertainty at the minute, and even maybe not the certainty of how high the prices are at the minute is scary. I mean, like, for example, you said you had a patch of arable there. Has the intentions of how much fertilizer is going on there different, or are you sticking to how it was, or how did that go?
At the moment, we're sticking to how it was, but I think, I mean, prices are still crazy high, but I think it'll be sort of winter next year is when everyone's going to really feel that effect. More so, I mean, don't get me wrong, the prices are ridiculous just now, but I think next year's really going to be challenging, and I think we are going to have to adapt and look at alternatives. What that might be, I don't know at the moment.
No, I don't think anyone does. You know, we know what the alternatives are, but we don't know if those alternatives are feasible, and we don't know if, you know, fertilizer prices are here to stay. You know, they might come down a bit, but I don't see them down at the 200s and stuff ever again.
No,
it's just not happening. You know, and they're probably going to find their way up again, and it's you know, maybe some people think that's good to reduce fertilizer usage and stuff, but when something happens like that, it's very hard to work with. It did. I mean, we were talking 200 less than a year ago, 250, not 200, but, you know, 250, 260, quite insane. But yeah, really good tips, and it's always nice to hear when someone says in 5 years I still want to be doing similar to what I'm doing. Means they're happy in what they're doing, which is good. Say what they're doing more, Wallace. I think you said it like 6 times in the last 2 minutes. But yeah, really appreciate you coming on, Nicola. It's been great to chat. It's always quite fun, as I say to everyone that's on this. You follow someone for however long, and you always sort of see them, but they mean nothing. They're just a picture. And then it's actually good to sort of open up and have a chat. So thank you very much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Not at all. And thank you. It's good to meet loads of different people. For those of you listening, I hope you've enjoyed as well. This was number 48. Next week we will be bringing on Catherine Dick. Now, this is sponsored by the Scottish Farmer. The R2Kast is sponsored by the Scottish Farmer, as a lot of you know. Catherine works for the Scottish Farmer as a journalist, as someone that goes out to events, to different things, to farms, whatever, and is involved in creating the Scottish Farmer. So look forward to that next week. The following week, I haven't actually arranged yet, so that's quite exciting, but that will be number 50, which is quite cool. As I said at the start, kind of mad to think we've got here. But yeah, that's thanks to a lot of you guys for listening. Thanks to a lot of the cool guests like Nicola today for coming on. So we shall see you next week. And thank you very much, Nicola.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. Another R2Kast finished, another agricultural mind opened up. And I would just like to say that getting these guests on board, it does take time, and it always has done, but I've now went weekly, and with that comes even more time required. And I would just like to finally thank once more the Scottish Farmer for sponsoring the show and making that much more possible. Please be sure to get in touch if you've any ideas of people you'd like to see on the podcast, or maybe ideas you have for me presenting better, because I definitely do require that. See you in the next one.